Recording in progress.
All right, this is for Romeo and Juliet, Act 3, Scene 2. And I'm just going to give you everything I got here today. We'll see how it goes. So Act 3, Scene 2. This is an interesting scene because it's like a twin. Its twin is back in Act 2, Scene 5, where the nurse, if you remember, came running back to Juliet. Juliet had been waiting to hear news from Romeo. And the nurse comes and she's very playful and she's teasing and she acts like she's just so exhausted and overtired that she cannot deliver the message. And so the structure of that scene, way back in Act 2, Juliet is waiting for good news of Romeo and she gets good news. And it ends with the promise of a wedding. Now, this is a twin scene to that one, but it's a contrast. It's an opposite. So in this one, Juliet is waiting for good news, just like the last scene, but she gets bad news. And instead of a wedding being the hopeful end, it ends with the reality of an impending funeral. Not only does it point to Tybalt's funeral, but Juliet speaks of death herself. So in this scene, it starts off with Juliet waiting for Romeo. And so I'm going to show you a picture and then I'm going to try to switch screens and show you the text. So Juliet is going to wish for night to come. They've had their wedding day. Romeo, without her knowledge at this point, has killed Tybalt, her cousin, and she's waiting for Romeo to come back to consummate their marriage. And so she is just imploring that the sun would set quickly. And so the sun god, his resting place is in the west, and she's imploring the sun god, imploring the night to go rest. And then she even mentions Phaeton, and he was the sun god's son. And it's very interesting. Whenever there's an allusion in a story, it means something. It's like a little clue to understanding the story. And she mentions Phaeton. And the story about him is that he is the sun god's son. And he begged his father to ride the chariot that pulled the sun across the sky towards night. And he really wasn't ready, but his dad gave him permission. And so he gets behind the wheels of the chariot and he pulls the sun across the sky. Well, he's a terrible driver. He doesn't know what he's doing. He just flails back and forth. He either gets too close to the sun, so he's scorching the sun, or he gets to the earth, gets the sun chariot too close to the earth, or he gets the sun chariot too far away from the earth, causing freezing. So Zeus is up in Mount Olympus watching this go on, and he's angry, so he hurls a lightning bolt at Phaeton. And this leads to his demise. He falls from the sky and he dies. So interesting that you have this story that she just gives a brief nod to Phaeton, but he's this character who was reckless, took on a mantle or responsibility too soon, that he wasn't ready for, and it led to his death. Does that sound familiar? All right, let me share the text quickly here. If I can transition to that, and we'll look at her language. And I see it, but not, let me see, not very big for some reason. Let me pause and see if I can figure that out. Let's see here.
Recording in progress.
All right, I stopped that for a minute because I couldn't see the text. And I still can't very good. I don't know why on my end, but hopefully you're looking at it. I'll look in my book. So Juliet, waiting for Romeo to come back. Sorry, I found the page. Okay, she says, "Gallop apace, you fiery-footed steeds, toward Phoebus' lodging." So she wants those horse chariots to go flying across the sky to get to the west so the sun would set. Such a wagoner as Phaeton, who I just described, would whip you to the west and bring in cloudy night immediately. So what does she want? She wants it to be dark. She cannot wait for Romeo to come back. Now, again, very dangerous enterprise for Romeo. You shouldn't do that, right? This is the Capulets' home. Neither of them have told their parents that they have gotten married. The only ones that know at this point are the nurse and the friar. Let me see. I'm going to try to pause this one more time. I'm having technical problems.
Recording in progress.
All right, I think I have it figured out. So Juliet is by herself and she's calling on the night to come. And you're going to see a lot of imagery here where night is contrasted with day. Let's see. Come, civil night, she says. Thou sober-suited matron, all in black. And she is anticipating Romeo coming. And look what she says here in this opening prologue. Give me my Romeo, and when I shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night and pay no worship to the garish sun. Just some interesting contrast here when you think about what Romeo said to Juliet. When he was talking about Juliet, he said, the stars they're busy and they need to go somewhere else, and so we're going to use Juliet's eyes to twinkle in the sky and be the light that shines so bright. So a little parallel there in terms of how she's speaking about Romeo and when Romeo spoke about her. That's just an interesting contrast or connection there. And then in comes the nurse. So this scene is kind of a repetition of scene 2, but instead of being happy news, it's going to be sad news. Here comes the nurse, and in her hand, she's holding the ladder, the rope ladder. And she sees the nurse, and she says, "Ay me, what news? Why dost thou wring thy hand?" And she immediately, the nurse, exclaims, "He's dead, he's dead, he's dead. We are undone, lady, we are undone." Juliet thinks she's talking about Romeo, but the nurse is actually talking about Tybalt. And Juliet says, "Can heaven be so envious?" She immediately thinks that Romeo is dead. Romeo can, though heaven cannot. Oh, Romeo, Romeo. Whoever would have thought it? Romeo. Now, the nurse is blaming Romeo, but Juliet takes this as if Romeo is dead. And then I want to pay attention to this scene right here just to give you a little bit of explanation. So as you're reading it, you can understand it. She says to the nurse, "What devil art thou that dost torment me thus? This torture should be roared in dismal hell." In fact, I have a slide on this, so I'm just going to go back we want to go to the chicken monster. Let's see, where are we at? Yes, okay, the chicken monster. Okay, Juliet says, "What devil art thou that dost torment me thus? This torture should be roared in dismal hell. Hath Romeo slain himself? Has Romeo killed himself? Say thou but I," and ay, I means yes. "And that bare vowel I shall poison more than the death-darting eye of a cockatrice." So this picture of this monster on the right, he's a chicken monster. Basically, he's the death chicken of the medievals. And kind of the imaginative landscape of the medieval mind, you would have had this kind of a monster whose body was like a snake or a dragon, and his head was that of a chicken. Lots of interesting stories about the death chicken of the medievals. And she says there would be more poison in that, yes, than the poison from this death chicken. The death chicken, if it looked at you, it could kill you. And she says, "I am not I, if there be such an I." She will no longer exist. Or those eyes shut that make the answer I. If Romeo's eyes shut, right, that means he's dead. That makes the answer yes. If he be slain, say I. Or if not, no. Brief sounds determine my weal or my woe. remember in that previous scene in Act 2, she's begging the nurse. She's begging the nurse to give her an answer. And she's doing the exact same thing here. The difference is that the news is bad. Well, it's bad. Juliet doesn't quite maybe understand how bad it is. It's bad. Okay, so the nurse and Juliet are going to banter back and forth. And she is going to find out that Romeo has shed Tybalt's blood. And Juliet's immediate response, whoops, wrong screen. Juliet's immediate response is, "Oh, serpent heart hid with flowering face, did ever dragon keep so fair a cave?" Her response is disordered. It's full of contrasts, right? So you have serpent heart, flowering face, dragon, fair, beautiful, tyrant, fiend, angelical. Shakespeare has already done this play on words before. And so she's at first going to respond, like, how could this beautiful creation, Romeo, be such a monster? But then she quickly is going to come right back to, wait a second, my husband's alive. He'd be dead if he didn't kill Tybalt. Tybalt would have killed him. Tybalt's dead, would have slain my husband. And she says, all this is comfort. Why do I weep? This is a great speech, and I've loaded an example of it in Google Classroom for you to listen to. She says, I want to cover the text here. I'm on line about 110, maybe 111. Tybalt is dead and Romeo banished. That banished, that one word banished, have slain 10,000 Tybalts. Tybalt's death was woe enough. So Tybalt's death is bad, right? If it had ended there, or if sorrow, woe, delights, and fellowship, and needly will be ranked with other griefs, who followed not when she said Tybalt's dead? Thy father, thy mother, nay, or both, which modern lamentation might have moved. She says, Romeo is banished. To speak that word is father, mother, Tybalt, Romeo, Juliet, all slain, all dead. Romeo is banished. There is no end, no limit, measure, bound in that word's death. No words can that woe sound. And so she says, if Romeo is banished, that is like death. That is death to me. It would be like everybody I know dying. There's nothing worse than to hear that Romeo is banished. And I want you to watch as you read how she responds to the nurse, how she responds to the news. She is going to send the nurse to go find Romeo so that he can come back and take his last farewell. So this is it. This is the end. Romeo is banished. There can't be anything good that comes out of this. She considers his banishment a death. So for Romeo to be banished means he's got to leave Verona. He's going to be exiled. And not too long ago in Act 2, Juliet told Romeo, wherever you go in the world, I will follow you. Interesting that she said that, but now in her grief, she sees Romeo's banishment as death. So the nurse is going to go find Romeo so that they can have their wedding night together before he leaves. Now, the prince has already said if anybody sees Romeo, it's instant death. He is supposed to be out of here. But they haven't shown the best judgment as of yet in this play, and they will continue in that vein. All right, so that is the end for this scene. I'm going to give myself a day to kind of start to feel better. On Thursday, you're going to have a sub. And then hopefully, Lord willing, I will get scenes 3, 4, and 5 loaded for you. I already have notes inside for those. We'll come up to those scenes here in a little bit, but look for those to load sometime on Friday. So this video and the video for scene 1 should be enough for you to do Friday's work. All right, God bless you.